you know, they're not meant to have any longevity, and there are many communities around the country, small communities, that say, you know, if you're going to build a McDonald's, you have to make this look a certain way and comply to, you know, that I don't know how far-fetched that is. I don't know if that would be something that the DRB would end up taking hold of. I don't know, but I do think that that would be important for, to show that we're invested in our town, and that we have high standards for what things are going to look like. None of this stucco crap that has a very short lifespan.
If there's not an explicit recommendation in here for design standards overall, it comes up in several different places. So I would say it's certainly what I've taken away from talking with Roger is that it's time for the community to bite the bullet on incorporating design guidelines, design and meaningful design review in the zoning change. And I guess he's aware that we're going to review the zoning ordinance, and he is a proponent of taking design characteristics more seriously. And it comes up, I want to say it comes up at least on Canal Street and on the West Brattleboro section of the plan of the piece report, if not in an actual recommendation.
It's in number 4, I think.
Yeah.
But, you know, pretty strongly.
Yeah. Brattleboro Town Government needs to develop a comprehensive set of development design guidelines that use extensive graphics to coordinate. So.
Yeah, like materials. Okay. So that's one point. There is tourist traffic actually on Putney Road. I'd like to point that out because there are 400 hotel rooms or something like that on Putney Road. And knowing people who travel on business who come to Brattleboro, they don't even know there's a downtown because there isn't any signage pointing to downtown. You know, they're pleasantly surprised when they come downtown. Not that I want to take away business from North Brattleboro. I know that that's also an issue. But I do think that it's a better portrayal of Brattleboro by making Putney Road look nicer. And I'm big on aesthetics. I think trees and sidewalks and flowers and all that stuff is great. I like it. Sorry, James.
No, I agree with you.
And
100%.
you know what?
And I think form-based would be great up there.
Yeah. I think is it worth the investment, and will it spawn more cohesive development in North Brattleboro? I don't know. In theory, it would entice people more so. But the one other thing that I think is kind of important to think about is that the internet allows people to work from anywhere, anytime, and there is a movement of people moving to rural communities who can still work, make money, who make New York salaries, who potentially could live here if it had, if it had jobs for their spouse, if it was a desirable community to raise kids, which Brattleboro is. So there's opportunity for growth. You know, whether or not we want that, I think we all have different opinions on that. What else? I think it's important to focus on the infill in downtown. It's important to get elevators or encourage people to have more usable space downtown to attract a wider market of people to occupy the spaces. Condo development for older people retiring, people are getting older. I think there's an opportunity there. I don't know about the 65,000 square feet. I have mixed thoughts on it. If they were a resident of Brattleboro, then they could have more than 65,000.
Yeah. There you
You
go.
have to be
That was one of the possibilities.
Are you serious?
I'm sure it was. I'm sure it was.
You name
That's
it.
interesting.
Corporate office is not far away.
Interesting. So I'll just throw that out there. But that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Carolina, did you?
Yeah. I have little bits of things that each person said that I sort of agree with, but I do have to say, along with what Gary was saying, I think we're looking at a whole different economic future and around where we're going. And I think when Gary talked about other places with limitations of water and whatnot, and that we're very well placed in many ways. I think we are. We're well placed in terms of food, although Hurricane Irene kind of woke everybody up to some limitations there. But as an area, we have a lot of people focused on how we can support ourselves in times of high oil prices and high gas prices, and what a newer kind of culture around all that might look like. And people are going to want to be closer into town, I think, or at least closer to walkable sections of town. And I see a different kind of development maybe for Putney Road, not so much that old standard plaza kind of development or the big box with a corporate owner somewhere else, but it might be, I've said this before, incubator businesses that have to do with food production or alternate energy production, solar, wind, whatever it might be. It might even be something that we haven't even named yet. There's all kinds of cutting edge stuff, and I think we're very well poised to open our minds to look toward those kinds of things and have that in our town, have those things somehow written in the town plan. And one other thing, I just lost it though. Anyways, sorry. I guess that's it. And I guess it's what people have been saying for a long time, even when V-Trans came to do all the Putney Road stuff. Again, it was enhanced pedestrian ways, even on a road like Putney Road that's going to be developed in more commercial ways, that they still wanted access, and to have that built in so that whoever does live there can still be able to get around safely. And I think that's one of the directions we need to go. And Michael Schumann, who wrote a book called The Small Mart Revolution, works for BALI, which is the Business Alliance of Local Living Economies. And that's a big expanding organization. And he's come here, he came here, Transition Putney had him come in the spring, I think, and he came and spoke to people here in Brattleboro. And he has figures when we talk about kind of those depressing socioeconomic figures that Roger brought and other people bring, and the census shows us. Those are all true in one light, but there's another kind of figures and another kind of profiling to look at that does it in a little bit different way. And Michael Schumann and the whole people in Bali, and not Bali, the country, although that would be kind of nice, the Local Living Economies group, they look at those statistics. And one of the things he came and said to the Putney people, because they were quite concerned, is what can we do for our economic, even though they're a more rural town than Brattleboro, what can they do for their economic development? And he had a chart of things to show, and one of them, again, was agriculture and food production and forestry. And forestry is one of the biggest industries here in New England, and it could be cultivated in a really sustainable way. And Michael Schumann is going to be back again sometime in October, and I lost the date, and I'm trying to find out. But he's going to be coming to Keene to do work with the Hannah Grimes incubator there. So I'll find that out, and because that would be very useful for people to come to and hear what he has to say. And which gives a whole different perspective on development and than that old kind of 1960s way that we're not going so much developing the shopping mall, come and rent space in us and stuff. A way to really encourage local businesses and people who want to, like Timberly's saying, people who want to come live here for the quality of life, but might have some great commercial enterprise they want to do. And I used rural Minnesota again as the example. There's a film at the library that talks about it. They were losing people and businesses like crazy, and they had rural wind power brought as a alternate commodity for farmers to develop, and in addition to their farm products. And so they found out why import windmill stuff from everywhere else, and so now they have a factory there that supports 300 good paying jobs in an area that was probably more rural and more depressed than here. So I think anything's possible out there in the future, and maybe Tim's looking at it in a little different way than I am, I don't know, but I think there's great optimism for what's possible out there, but in a different way than it's been in the past. But I do overall appreciate Roger's work and the fact that you went out into the individual communities on each of those 3 areas to get feedback. And I think that was probably Canal Street and Putney Road were the most telling, but yeah.
Gary,
Okay.
if I could just discuss what Carolina
Yep.
said. I particularly appreciated the meeting where people talked about, the entrepreneur and the new type of businesses. And, as someone who has recently moved and started a new business, there are a lot of people that I meet who've done similar. And I do think that is a real future that is slightly different from what was envisioned in terms of, the standard growth. And I think that the Hawk report tones it down nicely.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Because, at the planning conference that I was at, they said that Vermont grew from 1850 to 1950, grew 10%, while the rest of the country grew 550%. So if you think about that for a while,
It's
Vermont has a history of growth, but a slow growth. So I think if we could recognize that and build from that, I think
Yeah,
we'd
it's a good
be in a
point.
better spot.
We might not want that 550% either, because then we'd
No.
look like all
No.
the suburbs around Phoenix,
No.
Arizona, and wherever,
That's our
know.
job, is to
Yeah, I mean-
control that.
Yeah.
That's illusory, though, because Vermont actually had an extremely big development in the late 1800s and then a huge depression, followed by steady development.
Yeah, it was called the Civil War.
Well, I was talking about the merino wool industry.
Yes, that's
Well,
right.
those
Going.
two things are related.
Yeah.
New Zealand.
New Zealand, yeah, and then the
Damn New
clothing mills
Zealand.
got taken away too. The whole mill thing that happened to
Well,
that supported that.
I mean, I think to put it in a broader context here, it's outside the scope of Roger's report.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of, as a professional planner, you can spend a lot of time reading, web pages like Planetizen or the American Planning Association material and their newsletters and all that kind of stuff. And there's a lot of promotion of all the things that, the historic streetscape of Brattleboro contains. And there are many communities much newer than Brattleboro in the rest of the country that are trying to create what we've got
Yes.
here in a way.
Yeah.
So there is plenty of potential, I think, for the, and I think this popular term now is the work-life balance here is really potentially very good, and where we are a reasonable commute distance from a very large market, both Boston in one direction and New York City and
That's right.
the entire Eastern Seaboard in the other. And it is an attractive location for people, like Liz and others who've relocated here in recent years precisely because of that. And that it's an attractive and affordable town to be in compared to compared to its to other communities in the region. So I would say that underscores the emphasis on the downtown in this report. And so the key. But it's a bit like a donut. So the key recommendation almost from this report is do a master plan for the downtown. And that's the one thing that's not really enumerated or expanded on in this plan because there's a process that goes with that. So the somewhat, if you pardon the pun, pedestrian focus on the streetscape in each of the other commercial districts, in part, I think comes after this statement that the first and most important thing to do as a community is to develop a master plan for downtown. Right?
So let's make sure that's in there then.
Yeah, maybe that. Well, I'm putting that there now. I'm conscious of the time, but if are people feeling like that statement gets enough emphasis in Roger's work, or do you want to see it bolder in a way? You know what I'm trying to get at? 'Cause
Yeah.
to some extent, it might have been the poor job I did introducing it or whatever at the beginning, but I really think after having listened to all your comments, that the way I would summarize most people's views is that the bones of Brattleboro are still very strong and very good. It's consistent with the contemporary interest in, you know, the work-live setting, you know, that's about walkability and community.
Well, it's the last recommendation
Right.
about downtown. And
Does it need more oomph behind it? Do you need bolder in the body of the plan, do you think? Does it need to be emphasized more?
What's going to
No.
happen with the plan itself, or the
This
report?
report?
The report, yeah. It's not going to be taken on whole cloth, right?
It's not going to take on a life of its own per se. I mean, I think its single biggest purpose is to inform the land use chapter. So
So if we make one of the main actions
Right.
then that will be our job, right?
Right.
And that's how we'll do that.
right, and I would say from a competitive, setting aside whether I actually think it's true that communities compete against each other, or that they should, or that we should think about it in those terms. There's a whole philosophical debate that I don't want to have right now. But I would say if the commission's view is that it's the downtown Brattleboro and the surrounding neighborhoods that give Brattleboro its sense of uniqueness, then I think that's true for economic development strategies as well as for land use strategies. So I actually see the two things here as sort of really tightly connected. So to the extent that we're able to engage in meaningful economic development, it's because we've become a more attractive destination for people to relocate here, and that will encourage people of slightly different demographics to not leave. Right? So the vibrancy of the community is bound up in its streetscape, and so that's what we should be emphasizing. If that works, I don't know.
I just don't want us to get caught up in our work after the town plan is done, focusing on a master plan for downtown when there's lots of other things we've been talking about have been on the list for us to do for a long time. I think that the downtown, I think that should be in there, but whether that's one of the first things we do or not, I don't think so. We got stormwater, we got LID, we got lots of things that we really want to revisit or bring up, and I wouldn't want to get bogged down in developing a master plan for downtown.
Well,
Right
it's
away,
not to,
anyway.
It's not to say that we would do it,
Yeah.
because that isn't how it happened anywhere else. in
Yeah,
town.
that's right. Yeah,
So
yeah,
I
yeah. The
think
communities
there's a
did it.
constituency for that, you know.
Yeah, that's
That
what
that'll
I thought,
happen.
but I just wanted to
Yeah.
be clear there.
Okay, well, it's, we're past, are we there? We're close to tape time, but, okay, thank you.
I propose we do transportation at the next meeting. Can we
Yeah.
do that?
Like, why don't we
Put that first, so
do
we,
that? But I gotta say that we're gonna have to get some traction on these chapters, you know.
I wanted to ask
And,
about an update on that, because the select board asked that we, feed to them
I understand that.
soon, and we haven't even had our hearings on them yet, so where are we? Can you give us a 2-second update?
No, but
That's-
why don't we have an update next time?
Next time, okay,
Yeah,
great,
We'll have
thanks.
an update next time and do a estimated time of arrival
Yeah,
before
that
the
sounds good.
select board.
Yeah, thanks, Gary, that would be good.
Sure, okay. Well, thanks, everybody, for all your thoughtful, insightful comments tonight.
Yeah,
Move to
And,
adjourn.
good discussion, and
thanks
is there
for
a
going
motion
up and
to
down the
adjourn?
line again, because that makes a
Move to
difference.
adjourn.
Is
Second,
there a second?
yep.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Good night.
I love when you share.